Leslie, and Gene Wilder, who's since passed away. I've always been a massive fan of Gene Wilder. And I love Bobby Cannavale, who played Will's boyfriend. He was always my favorite partner for Will. I loved the two of them together. And of course, Leslie Jordan. It's Beverly Leslie.
Bobby was, I was going to ask you who was Will's favorite boyfriend.
Bobby, I loved him. And he was from Queens because I'm from Queens. And he was kind of had a more middle working class background in Queens. And we went to his house once for an episode for, I think it was Thanksgiving, which I also love that episode. It's a very funny episode. And Grace sleeps with his cousin or his brother or something that she finds out after he's like 16. Like it was like something I don't think you could do now, but it was really funny. Maybe they don't sleep together, they kind of fool around, but it was a super funny episode, and I love the two of them together, and I know they liked working together too.
See, like, what a brilliant show. You wrote it, I've seen it, and like here we are, like actually laughing at this concept all these years later, even though we already know it and it's already happened and we've already seen it. Like that shows you it like withstands the test of time. What about, just speaking of guest stars, let's talk for a minute about Madonna, the Queen. What was that like? How was it like to have Madonna there?
I'll always have a soft spot for Madonna because of what she did for the gay community and the way she was an early ally when there weren't a lot, especially during the time of AIDS. And she was very outspoken and fearless. So that to me is something I won't forget. I will say this. The part she was supposed to play was Karen gets a job. In this episode, Karen gets a job for whatever reason, I don't remember. But she becomes a woman she works in an office. She gets a job in an office building. And the idea was she meets another woman there who's like an executive secretary, the kind of woman who wears her sneakers on the subway and carries her shoes in her bag and goes to a happy hour after work and is like, but thinks she's kind of like, like a big deal in her tiny office. And Karen becomes enamored of her. So she was supposed to wear I guess what Anne Klein 2 suits with sneakers and be the kind of woman you'd see on the subway. And Madonna as that is very funny. And also Karen really looking up to her, super funny. But Madonna didn't want to wear any of those clothes. So she wears very long blonde hair extensions and these outfits. So she looked fabulous, but as a result, it was about 50% less funny than it should have been. So I feel like, oh, that's too bad, because it could have been really funny and it wasn't because as funny as it could have been because of that. So that's all I'll say about that.
When did you find out that Madonna didn't want to wear these clothes?
We did. She was at a fitting with a wardrobe person, and it was kind of like Madonna's got her own clothes, her own hair, and it's Madonna, and she was, at the height of her fame. And there's no, whatever she wants, she's going to do. And it's hard to tell. I don't know if she has a particularly good sense of humor. So it's hard to tell somebody that's used to, and that's clearly gone very, very far in the world by trusting what it is that they want to do, that in this scenario, you being on the show, people will enjoy this more if you trust, this and do it all the way this way. It will be a lot funnier. But that wasn't like a conversation that was going to happen. It was just like, she's wearing this. I was like, okay. We even had jokes we had to change because of what Karen said, maybe based on what she was wearing, or like that didn't make sense anymore. I was like, well, now this doesn't really make sense. And now, so like, it's this % less funny now, but what are you
just because of the clothes, like the joke wouldn't make sense
just
anymore.
Because she wasn't that fabulous. I mean, she looked like Madonna. She looked like a rich, fabulous celebrity. So, which wasn't what the character was, but she was game, when she was on the show, and she was also funny.
I was going to say, Gary, would you want to walk and knock on the door or pick up the phone and reach out to Madonna and say, listen, this is Gary Janetti from Will and Grace, and I would like you to change the clothes. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that.
Personally, at the time when she was on the show, I was not running the show, and I would have no problem saying that. I mean, if they don't, I would have no problem with trying to talk anybody into doing something that I when I know there's not a lot that I know. There's not a lot that I know. It's very easy for me to say all the things that I don't know and defer on certain subjects completely. But when I'm certain that this will be funnier, you are here to be funny, right? You have come here to be funny. So I am certain that if you do it this way, it will be a lot funnier. So I will do everything in my power to do everything that I can, because that's the one thing I know. Like, I know that will make it funnier. And by you not doing this, you are making it less funny. So are you certain, you want to do this? Because we can do it that way, but it will not be as funny. So I can talk to anybody. I don't care. Like, I feel like I can't keep my mouth shut when I know somebody's making something less funny.
I say that all the time. I'm like, I know nothing about anything in life, really. So but when it comes to certain things with work, I'm like, trust me, this is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Everything else, I'm a mess, and whatever you say goes, because I don't know anything about anything. But here, I know what I'm doing.
This is completely. Right. Yes.
Just give me one thing, people.
But then, like that with Ian McKellen, I did a sitcom in the UK, Vicious, with Ian McKellen and Derek Jacobi, and they played a couple that had been together almost 50 years. And in the first episode, Iwan Rheon is their neighbor. He's Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones. People know him as. He comes in the first episode, and Ian and Derek are, they welcome, they like seeing him, because they're very solicitous of him. They're like, stay, we'll make tea. They go into the other room, and then Iwan sees a cord and opens it, and this massive wall we think is behind the set is just this dark wall. It's actually a huge window, and he opens the window and the room floods with sunlight, and Ian and Derek walk back in, and in the script they're supposed to be like, the light, and they shrink from it, and they go back in the kitchen, and then he closes the curtains, and then they come back through as if nothing had happened. And they were like, we don't want to do this. We're not doing it. Like, what are we, vampires? No, we're people. We're not vampires. We won't do it. And it was the first episode during rehearsal. And I was like, well, like, and it's Ian McKellen. And when he's telling you he's not going to do something, believe me, you really feel it. I had to just say, you need to trust me. We're suspending disbelief, and the universe allows this. They are being playful with this young man. But yes, this is a window they never open. This is light. It will work. It will be funny. You have to trust me. And they did. They agreed to do it. And I was like, oh my God, now I promised that this is going to work. And it's like the prop has to work. It's a gag everything has to work perfectly. And, and then they got 3 big laughs, but they were doing it, and it was like, and it worked. And it was like everybody's favorite moment in the first episode. But I was like, oh, thank God.
You're like, okay, thank God.
I really put myself out on a limb, I promise. But it was that situation. I was like, I know this. If I capitulated and said, they don't want to do it, I don't know, make them uncomfortable, I could project myself to the night in front of the audience, and we'd get to that spot and it would suddenly be dead. So they'd want something there, so it's like, I need to be able to communicate and say, you have to trust me, because I believe this will work. I cannot promise it, but I can give you like a 90%, accuracy kind of a thing. But yeah, it is. It's like you said, it's like the only thing I know. I can't promise a lot of things. It's like this I have a really good instinct for.
I totally get it. Before we quickly move on from Madonna, I have one more question. Is this true? I don't even know if you know, where they say, like, she didn't know anyone's name. She didn't know Debra Messing's name. She sent her flowers and said, like, used a different name. Like, she didn't know anyone's name on the set. Is this true?
Kind of, yeah. She did send the cast flowers, but I believe when she sent them flowers after she was on the show, she sent them all their proper names. During the table read, which is when you sit around the table and read the script, which she, arrived late to with an entourage and made a moment. And it's a very down to earth kind of scenario. It's like, it was unnecessary. So it already started in a weird note. And in the script, she had to say, she said something to Jack. She's like, to Jack. And then she looks over to Eric and Sean and is like, I'm sorry, which one is Jack? I've never seen the show, during the table read. So she didn't know who anybody was. And I think it was kind of, I don't know what kind of a bit that is, to tell you the truth. But it was, yes, there was this sense of like letting people know that I don't really know who people are on this, So that happened.
I'm sure that made Eric.
That's a nice little inside tidbit. the exact.
I'm sure that makes Eric and Sean feel wonderful when they're on this top-rated show.
They had a really good sense of humor about it. I know Eric said something super funny, which I don't remember, but Eric was the one who got the laugh. So there you go.
What about, before we move on, what about Cher? I mean, if you couldn't tell I was gay, I mean, these are the things I want to ask about, but
I
how was
know
Cher?
Cher. I was not there when Cher was on the show, and devastated because I adore Cher, and Cher would have been the first person that I mentioned. Cher is in my first book. I talk about her as being like literally, our the gay everything. When Cher was on TV, it was where you went to feel less alone. Yeah, I adore her, and I wish to God I was there. But everybody loved her when she was on the show. Adored.
I've met her. She's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh
as a
yeah. Oh,
person.
lucky you. Yes. Yeah, I love her so
If you
much.
really wanted to meet her and you reached out, you can make it happen. Trust me. Like that, I know for sure. You and Brad, you'll make it happen.
Okay.
What about, like you point to like Bobby Cannavale, like how much of, because like, from reading this book and your first book, like, a lot of these coming of age stories, and like you were looking for your Prince Charming. I think you refer to the fact that you'd rather have theater tickets than go to like Jay's hangout for a circle jerk. But, so how much of like Will's dating life was based on you and like just experiences you had, if at all?
Maybe some, I think it was a cumulative of all of us. It was definitely, everybody was drawing on that show. Everybody drew from their own lives, which was a great thing about the show. So everybody who worked on the show, especially the people who've been